what we say in here in Idaho is, you know what? Come to Idaho, but leave your politics there.
Rock on, brother. That is exactly the mentality up here in Idaho. That's Bear. He runs a restaurant and a shop up here in just about as middle of Idaho as you can get. Great guy. Makes total sense. The kind of perspective you only get when you stop to talk to people for a while. We met Bear on the 5th or 6th day of our Idaho adventure. At that point, I lost count. But I'll tell you what, you don't find those type of people on the highways. Nuh-uh. That was the point. Drive around Idaho and see as much as we could to get to know what it's really like up here. And after spending a month driving around this whole region, I think Idaho is my new favorite state. Idaho! This might not be a big deal to you, but it is to me, because Idaho was the last state in the lower 48 that I had never been to before. And now, here I am. We would take 9 days to drive all around this wonderful state to report back on what's going on here. It'd be farmland, some big cities, and lots of mountains. And our first stop when we got here was just across the state line in the little town of Wallace. Hi-ho! This is a silver mine. Silver mining's how small Idaho towns made their money. They're the reason they're even here. So much money was pulled out of these mines that an entire world war was funded. I know. This old mine's in Wallace, a teeny little town of less than 1,000 people. And this might have been the neatest downtown I think I've ever seen. A lot of this was empty a few years ago. But a lot of people want to live in Idaho now. And folks have come in from all over the world and they've purchased in this downtown. And they're actively turning it into places to stay and shop. Because it's an old silver mine in town, there's a lot of history here. Some of these buildings were brothels. And a lot of them are haunted from the spirits of old silver miners and their associates. Just a wonderful place. Look at this downtown. It's just like out of a movie. It was in Wallace that I first discovered huckleberries. That's huckleberry ice cream. It's a very rare treat in these parts. And after we'd been here for a while, I started to notice huckleberries more and more. Huckleberry Jello shots? What? They are a rare treat in the northwest part of the country. They're elusive, and they're only around for a small part of the year. Kind of the truffles of the berry world. People hoard them, and they have their secret picking spots. And restaurants pay $100 for a gallon of them. But I cannot stress how much Idaho people love their huckleberries. They're like Smurf berries for these people. And once huckleberries were on my radar, They were on my mind the whole 9 days I was here. Huckleberry pancakes with huckleberry syrup and huckleberry jam? What? Huckleberry everything. And of course, I had to get those huckleberry jello shots.
Can I get 2 of your huckleberry jello shots to go?
Okay.
Now, I talked to a lot of people who live here. One of them runs the Stardust Motel. Her name's Kim, and she told me there's no easy answer as to why people wind up in Little Wallace. How do people find it? I'd never even heard of it, and I'm kind of a geography guy.
Yeah.
How do people even find out about this place to decide they want to move here?
I think Wallace decides if she wants you here.
Then we left Wallace, and we headed out to see more mountain towns up here. So the first half of our time here was spent in northern Idaho. The state's basically split in half. Mountains and green and skiing and fringe conservative types up here, and hot, dusty potato land down here. This is where most of the population is. So for this first day, it was this leg from Wallace over to Coeur d'Alene. What a nice day, right? Idaho has 3 times more sunny days than Montana does. Our first stop when we left Wallace was little Silverton, population 600. This is how it is up here a lot. Most of Idaho is small towns just like this. Silverton's an old silver mining town as well. I think that's where they got their name from. There's not much going on up here today. It's very quiet. But man, look at this location. I don't think these people need a lot to get by up here either. Way up here is where the real mountain men live. The end of the earth, they say. This is old, traditional Idaho. You wouldn't want to move up here unless you really wanted to get away. But you learn a lot about yourself if you came up here. Idaho folks are self-sufficient. They're fairly conservative, or libertarian. They're proud, and they work hard. And folks up here have common sense and good values. But Idaho isn't for everyone. There's not a lot of entertainment outside of guns and ATVs and big trucks. And there's not a lot of diversity up here. And the cost of living might surprise you. Here in Silverton, a home might be $275,000, and that's cheap for Idaho. It's the same thing down the road. This is Osborne. They have more of a small downtown area than Silverton does. There's 1,500 people in Little Osborne. 96% of folks are middle-class white people. It's not expensive here, but people also don't need to make a lot of money either. It's a quiet town. A lot of the people are elderly. And you can bet everybody knows everybody here. Look at this little small Idaho mountain town church. I don't attend, but I might be inclined to listen to a little Jesus in a place like this. So mining metals is why most of these Idaho towns up here were birthed. This area was the silver mining region of the world. A lot of these mines aren't open anymore, although we did get to tour that old mine when we were in Wallace. So we came across an old mining memorial on the side of I-90. There was a big mining disaster up here in 1972 in a town called Kellogg. Around these parts, they call it the Sunshine Mining Disaster. A fire broke out in the mine, and 91 men died. And then down the road's another mining tour. I think there's like 50 mining tours in this part of Idaho. Right there inside that mountain was a very productive gold mine at one time. If those shafts could talk. And our final stop of the day was little Kellogg, population 2,000. Check this downtown out. There were 6,000 people in Kellogg 50 years ago. But again, all the old mines have closed down. But I thought this was interesting because I saw all the fallen down coal mining towns in West Virginia and Kentucky. Those look bad, and those people are poor. It doesn't even look like America out there. But all of the former mining towns in Idaho look great. Why is that? Just another small Idaho mountain town. I went into a Kellogg gun store to check out stash. Of course, guns are a big reason people love Idaho. They love their freedoms here. 90% of the state supports hunting, and the other 10% better keep their mouths shut. So Idaho's right in the middle of what extremists call their American Redoubt movement. There's a plan up here for all the well-armed conservatives to migrate and settle up here for when shit hits the fan. You know, society crumbling. And people up here do not hide how they feel. There's a lot of, if you want to come here, don't bring your stupid democratic politics with you. And we don't want your homelessness, and we don't want your gun laws. That's just how it is up here. They do not mess around. But they probably won't shoot you unless you have horns on your head. When you're in Idaho, you gotta assume that everybody's armed. It's a shoot first, ask questions later kind of place. That's why there ain't no crime. It's cold here, and there's no drugs, and they respect the damn law. It is not a place for sissies. We spent our second and third days in the mountain town of Coeur d'Alene. I did a whole video on Coeur d'Alene. We stopped here because this is one of the places in Idaho that's seen a lot of change because of all the out-of-staters. If you know anything about real estate or demographic shifts, you know that a lot of people from the West Coast have fled to Idaho to get away from high costs and high crime and homelessness and liberal BS. It's good for the people leaving, but it's really changing everything, and the people that live here are frustrated. Because a lot of Idaho is no longer cheap. Some of the bigger cities like Coeur d'Alene are seeing a housing crisis now. Look at all these people. Jeez. Coeur d'Alene was always a resort town, but it's blown up. The population's 50,000 now, but 20,000 of those are here in the last 10 years. And it's driving up the cost of houses and rent, and a lot of locals, they're having to leave. And then you have huge companies like BlackRock that are buying up single-family homes. That doesn't help. And that means a lot more now hiring signs. Some of these resort towns out west are so popular that teachers and firefighters and even cops are paycheck to paycheck. They just can't afford rent. And some of them are even having to go to food banks. Imagine that. Teachers at food banks? Cops at food banks? This all sounds like a tragedy, and it sorta is. But Coeur d'Alene hasn't gotten any less wonderful. Yet. And hopefully it doesn't. I mean, there's hardly any crime here. And everybody I met was wonderful. And, I mean, look at the place. You can see why everybody wants to come here. I even got to get on that airplane right there and take a tour of the lake to see all the celebrity homes along the water. They call this North Hollywood because of all the famous snobby people who came up here from LA to purchase their 10th vacation home. You really do need to check out the Coeur d'Alene video I put out. The place is amazing, but you can't afford it.
It sounds like the people moving here still hold conservative values. That's good, right?
Now you hold your taters, Mappy. Them some bitches coming into town and they're stealing our dames. We used to tie men to the tree when they'd come into town with a pocket full of buckshot. Well, I got 2 Winchesters that say they ain't. So day 4 was more small mountain towns. Our next big city destination was Boise, but we took our time getting there and we saw all kinds of stuff. The drive from Coeur d'Alene to Boise is like 7 hours or something, and we wanted to stay off the highways. The landscape up here in western Idaho ranges from super high mountain passes to kinda rolling hills. And in between the mountain passes are farms. This was late July, and everything was green. And it was also yellow with the wheat fields and the garbanzo beans. I never saw this before, and I thought it was lovely. And then we got stuck in a construction zone, so I hopped out on the highway for a sec. We're stuck in a traffic jam out in some farmland in the middle of northern Idaho-ish. Really pretty. Oh, we're moving. It's just super chill up in this part of Idaho. It's farming, farming, farming. These farmers up here are conservative, but they ain't brainwashed. They see the signs about global warming, and they understand conservation. It's their future. Farmers are the hardest working folks in America. They're out in the cold and the heat, and when they're sick, they do not get enough credit. Just a hard-working kid hauling hay. And you don't see hard-working kids anymore, do ya? So a little bit later, we came to the first of many Native American reservations we saw in the state. This one's called the Coeur d'Alene tribe. There wasn't much here, and we didn't seek out Indian poverty like we have on other trips. This is one of their main streets. It actually looks pretty damn nice, I have to say. I mean, for a reservation. Warpath Smoke Shop. If we had named it that, it might have been considered insensitive. Idaho has college towns. I know, and you don't hear about them a lot. Moscow is in this part of the state. That's where the University of Idaho is. Now, if you know me, you know I like college towns. I haven't been to a college town I didn't like. It's a small place. There's 25,000 people in town, and there's 11,000 college kids here. We were here in the summer, so there weren't as many people running around as there usually are. But it still feels very lively. And there's way more to do here than any other place I've seen on this drive today. The university's mascot's the Vandals. That's because their college basketball team used to vandalize their opponents because they played so hard. The U of Idaho is the biggest university in the state. Sarah Palin went here, and so did CNN legend Lou Dobbs, and a bunch of other people you've never heard of. I think it's a really neat, super clean, small, quiet little campus. So this was a pleasant surprise. We were winding around so far in western Idaho that I didn't even realize we were right on the Washington border. And I mean right on it. We saw a sign that said Washington, and so we took it, and I was like, what? We're in Washington. Just crossed over right here. Sign on the other side. No sign here. Washington just does not want to welcome anybody, I guess. Idaho, Washington. Washington, Idaho. What the heck, Washington? You need a sign right there. There it is. I found it. Welcome to Washington. I was really concerned about those signs. You can't accidentally drive into a state and not see a damn welcome sign, right? But hey, that makes 6 states on this trip. So a couple hours later, we were driving along the mountains and we came to the top of the mountain range. And my first thought was, shit, are we already in dry hillside land? The answer was no. There were plenty of pine trees up ahead. But look at that. Down there is the supposedly not so wonderful city of Lewiston. I say that because a lot of people in Idaho say Lewiston is not a good place to live. And that's the Snake River, which separates Washington and Idaho. We'll get a bunch more looks at the Snake River on this adventure. Promise you that. And here's Lewiston. So the place was founded because of a gold rush. And this was actually the capital of Idaho when it was still a territory. Crime here is slightly higher than the rest of Idaho, which is very low anyways. And home prices here are just about the US average. Most of the jobs out here are farming or manufacturing. It's very blue collar. And it's very conservative here. I think 2/3 of this county votes red. But that's low for a lot of Idaho. Most of the state's 3/4 Republican. Looks good to me. Is it bad because it smells like wood pulp and it's a working class community? I didn't think this was a bad place, but I also don't live here. To be honest, I don't think Idaho people even know what bad is. We came across some more Native American stuff just outside of Lewiston. The Nez Perce thought that stone arch was an ant and a yellow jacket fighting over salmon. Huh, okay. Some old Native American legend stuff right here. Way out in the middle of Idaho. And then down the road is the Nez Perce Reservation itself. This is Little Lapwai, population 1,300. It's the headquarters of the reservation. It's 82% Native American. And they are poor here. 1/4 of the population lives in poverty, and the average person makes about only $13K a year. And gas is expensive here, apparently, or was. For fun, it's probably drinking and drugs for the younger people. Drugs are a big problem in rural Idaho. That's the one thing that they have to deal with here. It's drugs. I saw signs in restrooms encouraging people to carry Narcan on them. And there's billboards in Idaho telling people that too. I don't see that where I live. It's pretty rough on this reservation. We saw a lot of bad living conditions. I've seen worse though. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather be here than in San Francisco. And I'm pretty sure they would too. I talked to a tribal member when I was in Wyoming like 3 weeks ago, and I asked him about that. Like, are you guys happy out here on the res? And he said, you're sure as hell right we'd rather be out on these plains than in some big city. We don't care about money. We care about family and tradition. This is about as middle of Idaho as you can get. Look at that. I don't know what color that is. But I don't think I've ever seen a color quite like that. Down the road, we came across a little farm in town called Ferdinand, which is still technically within the reservation. There's 150 people here. I mean, this place is tiny. And even though we're still on the res, it's like 99% white here. Just the smallest little peaceful farm town you've ever seen. And And their high school mascot's the Pirates. The Prairie Pirates. Too much, Idaho. There's a gun club out here in rural Idaho where people shoot stuff. Now, I thought this was worth pulling over for. I saw that there was a shooting range / airport nearby. And you don't see that often. You can land your plane and then come shoot shit. Or you can shoot some shit and then hop on your plane and get out of town. Only in Idaho, folks. And then this little airport out in the middle of nowhere, western Idaho, with nobody around. Just me and my driver. Because I am walking out onto the runway of some airport, probably 2 hours north of Boise, in the middle of farm country. And clearly there's nobody on their way into town. And if there was, I guess I'd be in the way. This is some small town shit right here. You always hear about these wildfires going on out west every summer. It was late July, and we only had 5 days left on this 32-day adventure. We were lucky, because we didn't have any bad smoke days. But we did see a little bit about what that's like, though. Towards the end of that day, we came into a valley, and there was a lot of smoke in the air all over. This is little old Grangeville, population 3,100. A total farm town. Everyone here is a farmer. There's a farmer in their family. Folks out here pay about $300K for a house in the Idaho kind of prairie. So right now, we are in the middle of Idaho in like some mountain. This is a historical landmark. There were some major Native American battles down in that valley. And then check this out. The Snake River again in the late afternoon and all. That river's a big part of western Idaho. It's more than 1,000 miles long. We're going against it. From here it goes north towards the Columbia River and goes out into the Pacific near Portland. There's a lot of salmon in that river. It was a big deal back in the Oregon Trail days. And this is not the last time we'd see the Snake River either. Right in the middle of Idaho, change times. And then further down the river, we crossed back into mountain time again. For some reason, Idaho's broken up into a weird time zone map, and part of the state's in Pacific time, and parts in mountain time. And this is the boundary, right here, right on that bridge. And then just after that, we came to little mountain town of Riggins. Another little speck of a place. I think there's 400 people here. There she is, the Salmon River. I thought about jumping in that stream because it was 95 degrees on this hot, late July day. But it's in the 20s up here in January. That thing might be froze over then. And then back to the mountains again.
I hope they go flying into McCall and get pulled over. Please.
Our final destination of the day was the wonderful, and I mean wonderful, city of McCall. Now this place is super cool. There's almost 3,000 people here now, and they say there's 100 people a year moving up here now. I think that's going to change quick, because this might be one of the most undiscovered, under-the-radar places I saw on this entire trip. There's a lot of people who want to live in an Idaho lake town, but they can't afford it in Coeur d'Alene. Well, down here's an option. It's still close to $600K for a house in town, which is up there. But get in on that now, people. That's a tiny A-frame. Probably fit one person in there. This is just a nice break from all the BS happening around the country. And the lake's the best part. That's Payette Lake. And what a gem she is. People just sitting out enjoying the sunset and all. I think most of them were tourists. This is a very touristy place. I saw big groups of families that looked like they had rented out these big lakeside condos for the week. Probably $5,000 for 7 days. Good luck getting one, though. Idaho's pretty nice, I have to say. I'd been in Idaho for 5 days at that point, and I was like, this might be my new favorite state. Look at that. The Idaho you didn't know. For dinner, we ate at the Mexican joint in town, because they have this amazing view of the lake. There's a little beach and a little cowboy in McCall. We stayed at some kind of dumpy place at the end of town. I didn't like that place. But look, deer walking in our parking lot. My driver was very concerned about their safety. What are you going to do, block traffic? So here's McCall in the morning, cleaning it up for another wonderful day. Good Lord. The Huckleberry Trot. Wish I was here for that. But as I'd see about 20 minutes down the road, I knew nothing about huckleberries yet.
What part of California?
It's just a rental.
Huh?
It's just a rental. But inside, man oh man. Huckleberry candy, huckleberry pepper jelly, huckleberry popcorn, huckleberry fudge, oh my god, huckleberry candy, huckleberry jam, barbecue sauce, oh my god. I had no idea that I thought I had seen it all there, and shit. Huckleberry coffee. And of course, huckleberry ice cream. Yep, I found the huckleberry motherlode. Now here's the head honcho of the place. Real tough guy named Bear. He's the type of guy I'd want to have my back. We get in a standoff.
You know, funny thing about huckleberries is God has a sense of humor, because you have to pick a huckleberry one at a time, and they're not together like grapes. So you got to go low, you got to go high. So this fat boy, no way. I'm not picking huckleberries. Last 2 years, the huckleberries they blew off the vine. It got too cold before, so the crop of huckleberries that you could pick was not around.
And people have like their own little spots that they don't tell people about, right? Like if
Oh yeah, here in Idaho, it's called Nowhere Creek, or Somewhere Mountain. But you come to the store here, and I'll be happy to tell you where they are.
How long has your store been here?
70 years.
And you moved here 9 years ago.
9 years ago.
And how do you like Idaho versus California?
I miss the oceans in California, and I miss my family. There's nothing else I really miss. What we say here in Idaho is, come to Idaho, but leave your politics there. We are very much a Republican, state. And yeah, it's changing, but everything's changing. But you're going to find the people of Idaho very welcoming, very friendly group of people. Just first thing you do when you come to Idaho is change your license plate. Like yours is California. We always look at that first.
I know.
And there's a lot of good people in California, and we love you to come to Idaho. Everybody else stay home.
Thanks, Bear. Now we got the huckleberry coffee, and I was going to buy some ice cream, but then Bear ducked into the back and presented me with this huckleberry cheesecake. Are you kidding me? That might be the best thing I've ever eaten. I'm not kidding. That might be the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. You can only get this for a month. Oh my God. Oh my God.
There's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
But this year, it's back. It's looking real good. So hopefully huckleberries will come down in price, because it's $100 a gallon. So if you can imagine how much huckleberries is on that cheesecake, how much time it took to pick them, there's a lot of money there, a lot of work.
I met all kinds of people in this part of town.
Bill Dixon.
Bill, what's it like to live in a little small town in Idaho?
We love it. We have a lot of snow in the winter, so you got to prepare yourself.
What's the difference between like a little small town in Idaho and California small towns?
People are really nice up here. We all help each other. Nobody asks for money. It's great. Move here.
Thanks, Bill. All right. Now, as you leave the forested wonderland of northern Idaho, it transitions into rolling hills and prairie. Like, right away. When we began the trip, it was late June, and this whole region had got a lot of rain. But by the time we were completing the journey, it was early August, and all that green had faded away into yellow. We had a few stops before we got to Boise. This is B&B Farms. This place is run by a father and son who left California. Another one. These two talked to me about their lives. And you guys left California and came here.
Yep.
Tell me the difference between California and Idaho.
Night and day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The agriculture is completely different. The people are completely different. The state and their attitude towards business is completely different. It's just a whole different world. It's like going back in time, and it's all very nice. The people are wonderful here. Easy to get along with everybody. Easy to get along with all the rules and regulations, and it's a more relaxed, enjoyable pace of life.
Yeah.
And California was to the point where it was just a madhouse 24/7, and it was not good. So it was a decision. It's a lifestyle choice. There's no question about that. It's definitely not the farming aspect of it, we could grow a lot of different crops in California. We could do a lot more things. Cost of living there is a lot higher, but land's a lot higher. Everything's much more unattainable than it is here, and quality of life was everything. Now we're here. Like we got our 2-year-old granddaughter. We see every day, and all that's worth every penny of what we're not making in California maybe. Yeah. But we're definitely enjoying the life here, and I'll live a lot longer being in Idaho.
Yeah. How long ago was that when you guys started the farm?
We moved up here about 5 years ago, and you couldn't pay me to go back.
Did you farm in California? And then okay, so this wasn't new for you guys.
No,
I'm a third-generation farmer.
Yeah.
What made you decide sort of central-ish Idaho as your final home base?
So we actually looked all over the place. I knew I wanted to get out of California as soon as I got done with high school. Looked all over the place, moved to Colorado for a while, tried some different places, and we ended up having some family here. My sister went to school here for college, and we were actually up here for Christmas Day visiting some family, and drove down the road and saw the for sale sign on this place. And 10 months later, we were signing papers. It was everything. Before we moved here, we made a checklist of everything everybody in the family wanted, and this hit every box. We couldn't have asked for a better place.
You lucked out.
Absolutely.
Lucked out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And it just go, go, go. And the days are long, and when the sun's out, we want to go. And sometimes we're going most of the night too, but when the sun's up, you got to work, and so it makes for long days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do anything else.
It's not easy, and it is a lot of work, but when you enjoy doing it, I don't consider it work. I get to come out and do this every day. It's a privilege. It's not a job.
Absolutely.
So,
I haven't worked too many days in my life. I've gone out and done this stuff, but I haven't really had to go to work too many days.
Yeah.
So count my blessings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many former Californians up here in Idaho who are just wonderful people. How are they so lucky that they got all the good refugees up here? Real Americans, huh, everyone? Goes to show you, there's still hope for people leaving La La Land. So I hear that a lot of the people who move up here wind up leaving eventually. Or maybe that's just the locals trying to put a scare in folks. But the cold will get you. And the city slickers come up here with $1 million, and then they buy a huge ranch and some 4-wheel drive cars and a lawn tractor, and then they try to find work. That's not how you do it up here. There's just not enough stuff up here to cater to out-of-staters. Jobs and entertainment aren't plentiful. But if you keep your head down and you don't speak liberal talk, people around here will learn to like you. Now we fight hard to keep this place proper, so don't come in here and sassy it up. We don't put up with no crybabies. You come in and you need help, we'll give you a hand, as long as you're trying to help yourself. Learn the Idaho way. And it would help if you had some guns and some huckleberries. We were just driving down some country road, and I was like, what is that sign? I wish I was here in mid-March to see that. So earlier I told you guys about crummy Idaho towns. There's places up here in Idaho that people say are bad. Well, I happen to pass through some of those LOL bad places. This is little Weiser. There's about 6,000 people here now. We're in about as far western Idaho as you can get. So it's hot and windy and very dry for a lot of the year. There's a lot of farms and livestock out this way. And there's a lot of historic buildings in town. Look at the place. And it's cheaper here than the average U.S. town. Who said this place is bad? I think it's actually super nice here. You Idaho people live in a bubble, I tell you. And then another huge surprise. For the still not last time we crossed over the Snake River and drove in Oregon for a bit. That's 7 states on this trip. Oregon is fancy. Look at this side of the river. Looks like we're in Nebraska or Oklahoma or something. All right. Talk about a simple life. I didn't know Eastern Oregon was so hickville. Nothing wrong with that. But it's all pickups and trailers and Trump along the eastern side of the state. It's all very conservative farmland out this way. But it's affordable. And you won't see anyone living on the streets here. That's good. But I can see why people in most of Oregon want to secede and become part of Idaho. This looks nothing like Portland. I think these people hate Portland more than they hate grasshoppers. And then when we were here, I saw a casino. And I was like, what? Oregon has casinos? I hadn't seen one of these since we left Montana like 10 days ago. I love these old divey casinos. And then our last stop of the day was a little Oregon border town of Payette. 7,500 people and going up. Another wonderful small Idaho town that you haven't heard of before. This was a big trading fort back in the expansion days, and then it became a big deal for railroading. And today, it's the most basic small farming town in Idaho. And then just like that, you get spit out into the Boise burbs and surrounding farmland. Okay. So we spent 2 days in Boise. And yes, there's a whole video on just how bonkers this place is. Downtown's absolutely wonderful. And it's clean and safe. And they're building everywhere here. There's a lot of energy here. Everyone's in a good mood. And, well, Boise was as good as advertised. I think the only problem here is the cost of success. Since this was the fastest growing place in like the whole world for a while, home prices shot up. Traffic's getting bad, and it's just not simple Boise anymore. Most people seem okay with that because they're from somewhere shitty, and they're like, this is a hell of a lot better than where I came from. And then off we go. And before we even got out of Boise, I saw this license plate ahead of me. They sure do love their taters out this way. I mean, there's this. What the hell, everyone? This is a potato Airbnb. I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's the only potato B&B in the world. Isn't that just lovely?
Dolly's out of treats today.
Now, I don't know too much about this, except it's a couple $100 a night, and there's an outhouse, and you're surrounded by farm animals. But what an experience, I guess. That's Idaho for you. Big potato out in the middle of nowhere. We had a few more stops before we got to our final destination in Pocatello. Our first stop was Glenn's Ferry, a neat little town with 1,200 people. And they have a winery here. That's neat. But besides that, there's really nothing here. It looks really boring. But it's safe and clean, and I'm sure it's cheap, and everybody know your name, right? There's also a lot of history here too. Well, if this ain't southern Idaho, you got potato farms on the banks of the Snake River. And then Oregon Trail map. So all the old pioneers came right through here and crossed the Snake River right there. A lot of them didn't make it, I'll tell you that. On their way to Oregon, straight ahead. So I went to the state park in town to see some Oregon Trail history. These wagons are original. I mean, I don't think they were parked here in 1883, but they were used to cross into Oregon, and they came right through here. Man, the amount of faith those people had, right? And the hard work and togetherness and toughness. Americans sure have gotten soft now. Us cowboys and Indians, we didn't always get along, but we had respect. And nowadays, when they get into beef, they pull their pistols out and don't even know where they're shooting. And our women were tough. Tougher than me. Hell, they'd put us in a headlock when we didn't mind our manners. Let's crack a Coors to celebrate the pioneers that blazed a trail. Without a damn map and without a damn internet. So right now I'm going to show you the Snake River Gorge. It's behind me in Twin Falls, Idaho. Just got to get off the highway a little bit and you find all kinds of cool stuff. Huh, everyone? This is the Snake River Gorge Bridge in Twin Falls, and oh my goodness. There's people down there on kayaks on a Saturday. And then oddly, there's a golf course down there. What in the heck? There's a golf course in the Snake River Gorge? Oh, there's waterfalls. What? There's a waterfall there. Dang. Oh my goodness. What is happening? Whoa. What? Whoa. Holy crap. That is a sight to behold, people. Oh my goodness. It's like the Grand Canyon of the West. And that's a long way down, isn't it? And Evel Knievel tried to jump from that side over there to where I am now, apparently, and didn't make it. And I think his motorcycle landed somewhere down here. That's pretty far. And just why Evel Knievel tried to jump that? Well, that's what made him macho and brave and famous. And I hope he's jumping over big soft clouds up in heaven. And guess what? Okay, one more Snake River stop. This is the Shoshone Falls. They call this the Niagara Falls of the West. It's pretty neat. We caught it towards the end of the summer when the waterfalls weren't as impressive. But I hear when you're here in late spring, the ground will shake underneath your boots. Twin Falls is nice. I mean, everything we saw in southeastern Idaho is nice. A lot of this part of Idaho is very Mormon-y. They think a quarter of Idaho's population is some shade of LDS. Down here in southern and eastern Idaho, it's close to half that. There's some huge Mormon churches and temples around every corner of this state. I did 2 whole videos just on the Mormon influence in this part of the country, in case you're interested. And after you leave Canyonland, it's all farms and farm towns. The first place we came to was a little farm town called Burley. This is actually the biggest town I saw on the trip. There's almost 12,000 people here now. And everything here is about farming and cows. There's a lot of money in this town. There's also some big banks in town too. Hard-working farmers making this place go round and round. I'm sure a lot of Idaho people think this is all a little rough and tumble though. It's a third Hispanic because of all the ag in the area. The crime's not wonderful and it's not all green and lush. This looks exactly like many, many places I've seen along I-5 in California. Now you know you're in potato land now. Everything down here in southern Idaho is farming. It's like the California Central Valley, but just smaller. 1 out of every 3 French fries you eat was born right here. Here's a potato field, right up and close. This is what Idaho is known for. And right there, that's a little baby potato one day. Gonna be a potato. They're just barely starting. And this is late July. In 2 months is when they're gonna harvest them. I bet these were just planted maybe 2 weeks ago. Potato field, corn, cows, potato field, gonna be a potato field. We saw a lot of potato farms. I think every mile of I-84 is in taters. And in between all the houses too. So we pulled over because I saw some people milling about at a processing plant called Sun Valley Potatoes. So I went to check it out. I was like, hey, I want to talk to a damn potato farmer. It's a real-life potato washer. Billions of potatoes go through this machine. There's some right here. It smelled really bad because there were old potatoes wedged in the gears. Is this where they get vodka? When they're not being grown right now. Like the potatoes aren't ready until like September or something, right?
August.
So what do you guys do till August? Just big stuff?
Well, we have storage potatoes.
Oh, cool. Then I found some Mexicans in the back working on the potato equipment. They weren't very helpful. So back at the potato farm down the street, I think that they thought I was a cop because there were some Hispanic guys in that building cleaning out the potato processing plant. And I walked in and they all stood up and at attention. And then I explained that I was just filming for YouTube, and the translator guy, they all let out a sigh of relief. I think they thought I was Fuzz, which I'm not. I'm just a YouTuber. And then it was off to our final stop, the rough and tumble, bad reputation town of Pocatello. So the whole reason I came to Pocatello was because a lot of people in Idaho said this is the worst place to live in the state. People say there's a lot of drugs here, poverty, crime. So we spent a couple days here to see what the hype was all about. It's not that bad at all. It's actually really clean here. This place was a wreck years ago, but they got their homeless people and their druggies off the streets, and people just invested in downtown, and they fixed a lot of it up. I think it's just a regular old middle America small city now. So stop saying this is bad, Idaho people. You want to see bad? Go over to Spokane. So, my final day in Idaho was a lot more of the same. I'll spare you all the details, but there were definitely some highlights. On this day, we drove from Pocatello down to Salt Lake City. It took us about 5 hours to get to the Utah border because we stopped a lot. But first we had to get some gas. And then I realized, wait, I haven't shown YouTube what a small Idaho convenience store looks like. Hello? Just a bigger cooler. It's not very exciting. I found a better teeny town store, though, down the road. We're in Swan Lake, Idaho. Population probably 50. Just in the southern part of the state, right at the base of the beginning of the Rockies. That's their post office. We're right on Highway 91. I'm gonna see if anybody's in this little shop here.
So your store, tell me about your store.
Well, it was originally built in 1910 by three brothers named Thomas. And then it ran from 1910 until 2017. And they closed it then. And in 2021, I bought it and started fixing up the building, and it's been open for 2 months.
So where did everybody get their groceries before you were open?
You have to go into town, Pocatello and Logan, pretty much.
45 minutes?
Yep. So that was one of the reasons I have two sisters who live in Downey, the store or the town right down the road. And they moved there when there was still a grocery store. And one of the reasons that I decided to buy this and fix it up was because it worried me that they were in a food desert. And I felt like this was the right thing to do to strengthen small towns and rural areas and make us less dependent on big cities and other places. And so I felt pretty strongly about that.
Now you're from the East Coast. You moved to Idaho, or not from the East Coast.
I was born in Logan, down the road, and grew up in American Falls and Blackfoot.
Oh, okay.
The other
So
way.
then you lived in Virginia and came back.
And I've lived all over the world in between, and then I came back.
Why'd you come back to small town Idaho?
Never thought I would. When I graduated from high school, I never wanted to live in Idaho. But over time, it's the only place I want to be with the world politics and the way things are. I lived in Europe for 7 years, and I don't know, I grew to appreciate having a little local grocery store that you visit every day, and I definitely appreciate history. I wanted to preserve some history here, and I wanted to have a place to stop and visit, and just, I don't know, it makes me happy to be here.
What is it about coming back that it was the politics in the small town, and like, what is it about small town Idaho that brought you home?
I would say it is the reliance on each other. It is the politics of being away from the politics. People just don't care as much about it. I mean, they care, but they don't care. It doesn't affect you as much every day, and that's nice. It stressed me out living in the DC area. I like just having things be a little bit more simple, and I like being close to family, so that's part of it as well.
Man, small town Idaho. There might not be a better place in America right now. Farms, gravel roads, small town of Preston. We're only about 20 minutes from the Utah border at this point. So, why am I showing you this? 'Cause that's Napoleon's house. That's right, where Napoleon Dynamite lived. That's where he and Kip and their grandma lived in the movie. That's where they shot it. We actually didn't even recognize it because I hadn't seen the movie in like forever. And it just looks so unassuming way out here in the middle of future French fries. And another surprise, that's Pedro's house. And that's where they filmed the high school scenes and the tetherball scenes. Too much, Idaho. Too much. How fitting that this is where they filmed that movie. And I can see why they chose Idaho. It's wonderful here. There's an innocence and a simplicity about the place, just like Napoleon. Idaho's like America used to be. It's friendly, it's peaceful, lawful, it's sensible, and just marvelous to look at. When we finally got back to the Utah state line, I was sad. Not because I was flying home in 5 hours, and not because Utah kind of sucks, but because I didn't know when I'd be back to Idaho again. I wish I could pick this state up and stick it right next to North Carolina. Just push Virginia out of the way, because I liked it here that much. I hope one day you see it too. Chief Pocatello put a curse on this place, and he said, "You can't leave until you take some dirt home with you." Well, I guess that means I get to leave. And that makes me sad. I've seen a lot on this trip. I didn't realize Idaho had so many raucous people. I didn't realize Idaho likes to hoard their huckleberries either. I saw overpriced housing developments, political battles, change. There's still a lot of cowboy left here and a lot of Old West. They need to hold on to their traditions here. I'm gonna hop on that horse over there. Can't see her. Come on, girl. I'm gonna get on an airplane and fly out of here. Hopefully the next time I come, this place ain't changed too much. Americans have a way of ruining everything, and that makes me a little misty-eyed. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.